The night they made me the punchline in my own living room, I learned something ugly, and my name is Miles Hartman. Yeah, that was supposed to be my fresh start. A housewarming party. New keys, new walls, new air after 2 years of waking up to an empty side of the bed and pretending I didn't hear the silence talking back. I'd poured everything I had into that place. Not rich guy remodel money. Real money. The kind you earn with late nights and stiff joints. The kind you save by saying no to vacations so someone else can say yes to college. And there I was, standing in the middle of my own damn home, surrounded by people I'd fed and helped and carried, watching the woman who married my son turn my celebration into a public execution. She floated through the room like she owned it, smile bright, voice sweet, eyes cold, the kind of charm that isn't warmth, it's a weapon. She stepped up to me at the kitchen island where the drinks were lined up, placed a glass in front of me like she was crowning a loser, and said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "This one's for you, Dad. A new beginning." A couple people laughed like it was cute, like it was a Hallmark moment. Then she leaned in a little closer, still smiling, and said it quieter, but not quiet enough. "Try not to embarrass us tonight, okay? This house might be the only thing you ever did right." My throat tightened so fast it felt like I swallowed a nail. I stared at her, waiting for my son to correct her, waiting for him to say, "Hey, don't talk to him like that." He didn't. He stood behind me, hands in his pockets, wearing that soft, passive expression he always wore when she spoke like this, like he was watching weather, like cruelty was just the forecast. And then she went for the real cut, the one she knew would land. "You know what everyone's saying?" she asked, loud again, turning her head like she was addressing the room. "They're saying it's adorable you're playing independent grandpa, like you're not one fall away from becoming everyone's problem." I felt heat crawl up my neck. My palms got slick. That vein in my temple started that slow, painful throb that says, "Don't snap, not yet." She raised her own glass and gave me a fake toast. To new beginnings, and to not being a burden. A few more laughs. Nervous ones this time. People looking down at their cups. People who didn't want to be involved, but sure loved the show. I wanted to slam that glass into the sink. I wanted to throw her out of my house by the back of her designer dress. But I didn't. I smiled with my teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. Because that's what men like me do. We swallow it. We keep it together. We don't make a scene. And that was her whole plan. Humiliate me in public because she knew I'd rather bleed internally than bark back. I picked up the glass. The whiskey smelled strong, sweet, expensive. She watched my hand like she was watching a trigger get pulled. That's when my granddaughter tugged my sleeve, small fingers pinching my shirt like she was trying to anchor me to the earth. A little voice, shaky, right under the noise of the party. "Grandpa, don't drink that." I froze. Not because I thought she was being dramatic, because kids don't say things like that unless something in them is screaming. I lowered the glass slowly, set it down on the end table beside me. I crouched a little, trying to keep my face calm for her. "Hey." "Why, sweetheart?" She swallowed hard. Her eyes were wide, glancing past me, toward the kitchen, toward the woman who was still smiling like a saint. I saw her. She put something in it. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might actually pass out. In the background, my son laughed at something someone said. And then, because the universe has a sick sense of humor, he stepped behind me, reached down without looking, picked up the glass I'd set aside, and took a sip like it was nothing. It happened in that slow-motion way nightmares do. I saw the rim touch his lips. I saw him swallow. I saw her eyes flicker, just for a second, like a candle catching flame. I turned too fast. "Don't." Too late. He smiled, casual, like a man stealing a taste of a drink at a party. "Relax. he said. "It's just whiskey." I stared at him. I stared at her. She lifted her eyebrows like, "Oops." How clumsy of him. Then she leaned close to me again, that poisonous sweetness still on her tongue. "See, if he can handle it, you can. Stop being so dramatic." Dramatic. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him. I wanted to scream at everyone to get out. But I didn't have proof. I had a child's warning and a gut feeling that had just turned into ice. So I watched. I counted the minutes without meaning to, my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape my body. 10 minutes later, his cheeks looked flushed. He rubbed his temple and blinked like the room was tilting. "Hey," I said, stepping closer. "You okay?" He nodded too fast. "Yeah, just hot in here." It wasn't hot. The AC was running. People were comfortable. Only he looked like he'd been shoved into a fever. 15 minutes later, his hand trembled when he reached for a napkin. He laughed it off like he was trying to convince himself. "Guess I'm a lightweight now." Then he swayed. Just a little. Enough that I saw it. Enough that I saw her see it, too. And she smiled. Not a big smile. Not the one for the party. This was a private smile. A tiny curl at the corner of her mouth like she'd just watched a trap spring. 20 minutes later, he stumbled into the hallway like he suddenly forgot where his feet were. Someone asked if he'd been drinking all day. Someone else joked. "That's what you get for stealing your old man's drink." And then the visual shock hit. He sneezed, and blood sprayed. Not a little drip. Not a cute nosebleed. A red burst across his upper lip and down his chin. Bright and wet, like someone turned on a faucet inside his face. He slapped a hand up to his nose, eyes wide, confused, and the blood soaked through his fingers instantly. The room went silent in a way that made my stomach drop. He tried to laugh again, but it came out wrong. Slurred, thick, like his tongue was swelling. "Hey, I'm fine," he mumbled, but his knees buckled mid-sentence. He dropped hard. His shoulder slammed the hardwood with a sound that made 2 people flinch. His head hit the edge of the coffee table. A glass tipped over and shattered. Ice skittering across the floor like tiny teeth. Someone screamed. Someone else yelled for towels. And the woman who handed me that drink. She covered her mouth with both hands and did the most convincing performance I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God, baby. She dropped to her knees beside him like she was a grieving widow in a movie, crying instantly, shaking dramatically, like she was watching her whole world collapse. But her eyes, they weren't panicked. They were calculating. I pushed through the crowd and dropped beside him. His skin felt clammy. His breathing sounded wrong. Wet, like he was drowning on the inside. Blood dripped from his nose onto the floor in steady drops. Plop, plop, plop. Each one felt like a countdown. "Call 911, I snapped, and my voice came out colder than I expected. Now, a neighbor fumbled for a phone. Someone finally moved. My granddaughter was crying, clutching my sleeve again, shaking like a leaf in a storm. "Grandpa, I told you." I wanted to hold her. I wanted to promise her everything would be okay. But my eyes were locked on my son's face. And then I saw it, blood at the corner of his mouth, not from biting his lip, not from a cut. It seeped out like his body was leaking from places it shouldn't. He looked up at me, pupils unfocused, lips pale, and he whispered, "Dad, what did I drink?" Before I could answer, he gagged, coughed, more red, and the room erupted into chaos like a fire alarm went off in everyone's spine. That was when I looked up, and she was watching me, still kneeling, still crying, but watching me, like she was checking whether I'd finally taken the sip, because she didn't just want me embarrassed. She wanted me gone. And the only reason I was still standing was because an 8-year-old girl tugged my sleeve at the exact right second. The ambulance lights painted my living room red and blue like a crime scene. And I remember thinking how fast a new beginning can turn into a forensic cleanup. They loaded my son onto the gurney, while strangers stepped over broken glass and spilled ice. One of the paramedics kept asking questions in that calm, rehearsed voice they use when someone's life is wobbling on a wire. What did he drink? How much? Any medications? Any known conditions? I answered on autopilot. Whiskey. 1 glass. No conditions. No meds. He's a teacher. He runs 5 miles on weekends. The words sounded ridiculous even to me as I said them, because the way his body was betraying him didn't look like a bad reaction or a stomach bug. It looked like something inside him had been sabotaged. She insisted on riding with him, pushed past me with shaking hands and loud sobs. The paramedic hesitated, then waved her in. Family member, he said. That word landed wrong. Heavy, like a lie with paperwork behind it. I stayed behind because someone had to take my granddaughter. Someone had to close the door on the house that was still buzzing with whispers and guilt, and the smell of blood mixed with whiskey. When the ambulance pulled away, my living room was wreckage. A man's shoe under the couch, napkins soaked red. A chair tipped over like it had tried to escape. People mumbled apologies and excuses as they grabbed coats. No one met my eyes, except her. She lingered by the door, mascara streaked, voice soft, trembling. I'll call you from the hospital, she said. Try to rest. Rest. In the house where my son collapsed. The door closed. Silence flooded back in like a tide. I locked it. Then I stood there for a long moment, listening to my own breathing, feeling my pulse in my ears, my heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. I took my granddaughter to the guest room, tucked her into bed, still wearing her party dress. She curled up small, thumb in her mouth, eyes glassy. Did Daddy get sick because of me? She whispered. That question hit harder than any insult that night. No, I said instantly. No, never. None of this is your fault, she nodded. But kids don't unhear fear once it crawls into their bones. I sat on the edge of the bed until her breathing evened out. Then I stood up, quietly closed the door, and went to war. I didn't rage. I didn't pace. I didn't shout her name into the empty rooms. I did what I've done my whole life when something didn't add up. I started inspecting. I walked back into the living room and looked at that end table like it was a crime scene. The exact spot where I'd set the glass down. I crouched and examined the coaster. A faint sticky ring. Nothing obvious, but my gut twisted anyway. I went to the kitchen. The bottle she'd used was still there, pushed just slightly behind the others, like it was trying not to be noticed. I picked it up and turned it in the light. The cap was on tight. The label pristine. Too pristine. Like it hadn't been handled much. Except once. I didn't drink. I didn't pour it out. I grabbed a freezer bag, slid the bottle inside, sealed it, and wrote the date on it with a marker. Old habits die hard. Document everything. Then I went to the bathroom. My medication cabinet is organized like a damn filing system. Always has been. I take a blood thinner every morning for my heart. Same dose. Same time. I log it, because one mistake could kill me. I opened the cabinet, took out the bottle, poured the pills onto the counter. I counted. Once. Then again. I was short. Not 1, not 2. 6. 6 pills missing. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grab the sink. I opened my logbook. Every day checked. No missed doses. No doubles. No gaps. Someone had taken them. I sat down on the edge of the tub, the room spinning slightly. That quiet hum of realization settling into my bones like a verdict. She'd been in my house 3 days earlier. Said she wanted to help set up early. I'd been in the garage sorting tools while she was inside alone. I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner. felt angry at myself for assuming politeness meant safety. I stood up and went back to the kitchen, pulled my laptop out, and searched one phrase. Blood thinner overdose symptoms, alcohol. The results came fast. Too fast. Bleeding. Nose. Gums. Internal hemorrhaging. Collapse. I closed the laptop slowly. The picture snapped into focus with brutal clarity. That drink wasn't meant for my son. It was meant for me. The phone rang just then. Hospital number. They said he was alive. Stable. Barely. ICU. They said the word anticoagulant toxicity like it was a technical issue, not an attempted execution. I didn't correct them. Not yet. After I hung up, I stood alone in my kitchen, staring at that sealed bottle on the counter. That was the moment the fear burned out of me. Fear is loud, panicky, makes you sloppy. What replaced it was colder, cleaner, focused. Someone had tried to kill me in my own house, using my own medication, in front of witnesses, smiling while they did it. And they weren't going to stop just because it failed once. I didn't call her. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't tip my hand. I made a list. Step 1. Confirm the poison. Step 2. Preserve evidence. Step 3. Make sure the next attempt happens on my terms. I grabbed my keys and drove to a private lab. An old colleague once mentioned, the kind lawyers use when they don't want rumors. No questions. Cash up front. I handed them the bottle and said one sentence. Test this for blood thinners. Specifically, the woman behind the counter didn't blink, just nodded and wrote a number on a slip of paper. 2 days. On the drive home, the streetlights blurred through my windshield. My hands were steady on the wheel. Too steady. That's when I knew I was past shock. At home, I locked every door, set my phone to record whenever anyone approached the front. I slept in a chair by my granddaughter's room like a guard dog that night. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smile when my son drank that glass. 2 days later, the lab called. Their voice was neutral, professional. Significant concentration detected, they said. Lethal if combined with alcohol. That was it. No drama, no hesitation. Proof. I sat in my car in this parking lot long after the call ended, staring straight ahead while people pushed carts past me, laughing, arguing about dinner, living their normal lives. Someone had planned my death like a checklist, and now it was my turn to return the favor. Legally, publicly, and in a way that couldn't be spun. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to build the case brick by brick and drop it on her in daylight. I walked into the ICU with that lab confirmation sitting in my pocket like a hot coal, and the first thing I saw was my son, Aaron. He looked smaller in that bed. Not physically, just in a way that happens when the world reminds you how fragile the human body really is. His skin had that washed-out hospital pallor, lips dry, eyes heavy, a little bruise blooming near his temple from where he hit my coffee table. Machines beeped in lazy rhythms, like they were bored with the fact he almost died. He blinked when he saw me and tried to smile. "Dad." I gripped the side of the bed to steady myself. My knuckles were white. "Hey, you're still here," he swallowed. They said it was some kind of blood thinner thing, like I had it in my system. I felt my jaw tighten. My tongue tasted metallic. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice even. "That's what they said." He stared at the ceiling like he was trying to replay the night and kept hitting a blank screen. "I don't get it. I don't take anything. I only had one drink." "One drink?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane that one drink could turn a healthy man into a bleeding wreck on a hardwood floor. Then she swept into the room. Brielle. She came in carrying a little paper cup of hospital ice like she was bringing comfort. Hair perfect, nails perfect, face arranged into the right kind of misery. She rushed to his bedside and grabbed his hand like she owned the story. "Baby, you scared me so bad, I thought I was going to lose you." Her voice trembled on cue. She even let a tear roll down her cheek and catch the light. But the moment her eyes cut to me, the tear stopped meaning anything. Because behind the performance, I saw it again. That same quiet calculation. That same look she gave my glass at the party, like she was watching a plan, not a person. She turned to me and did the fake concern routine. "You must be exhausted. You're not young anymore. You should go home and rest. I've got this." Not young anymore. There it was. The insult hidden in care. I leaned closer to my son, lowered my voice. "Do you remember which drink you grabbed?" He frowned. "No, I just picked one up. I thought it was mine." I nodded like I accepted it, like I wasn't watching every micro-expression on her face. She interrupted. Too fast. Too loud. "He doesn't need to remember anything right now. He needs calm. Stress is bad for recovery." Her hand tightened on his. Just a little. Possessive. Like she was squeezing the truth out of him through his fingertips. A nurse walked in to check vitals. She switched from worried wife to sweet patient advocate in half a second. "Hi, thank you so much for everything you're doing." The nurse smiled politely, adjusted an IV line, asked if he felt dizzy, asked if he'd had any more bleeding. He answered in soft, tired monosyllables. When the nurse left, Brielle leaned in close to him and kissed his forehead. "I'm going to step out and make some calls, okay? I need to talk to my aunt about childcare." Childcare. That's when my granddaughter, Nora, slipped into the room behind her like a little ghost. She was clutching a stuffed animal and looking at the tubes like they were monsters. She didn't run to her mom. She ran to me. She pressed her face into my side and whispered, "Grandpa, she did it on purpose." I felt my stomach turn. I crouched to her level, forced my voice soft. "Honey, what did you see?" Her lower lip trembled. "At the party, I saw her go in the bathroom, and then she came out and went to your drink and she made a little stirring motion with her finger. She put something in it, and she looked around like she was being sneaky, like when I hide cookies." That hit me in a place that made my vision go sharp, because adults can lie. Adults can deny. Adults can argue, but kids don't build complicated conspiracies in their head. Kids just tell you what they saw, and she wasn't confused. She wasn't guessing. She was warning me again. Brielle came back into the room too quickly, like she'd sensed we were talking about her. She looked at Nora and smiled that same sweet knife smile. "There you are, sweetheart. Go sit down, okay? Grandpa needs to talk to Daddy." Nora didn't move. Brielle's smile tightened. "Nora, go." My son noticed. His brow furrowed. "Hey, don't bark at her. She's scared." And there it was, a crack. Brielle's eyes flashed annoyance so fast most people would miss it. Then she forced herself back into devoted wife. "I'm not barking," she said sweetly. "I'm just trying to keep things calm." Calm. Everything was always calm, right up until someone ended up bleeding on my floor. I stayed in that room another 10 minutes, just listening, watching, cataloging. Brielle never once asked the doctor what exactly was found in his blood. She didn't ask how it got there. She only asked one thing. How long will he be here? Not, will he be okay? How long? Like she was tracking a schedule. When I finally stepped out into the hallway, I caught her doing what she thought I wouldn't see. She was on the phone in a corner, body turned away, voice low and sharp. Not crying, not trembling, just pissed. "I don't care," she hissed. "It wasn't supposed to be him. Do you understand me? It wasn't supposed to be him." My skin went cold. She saw me at the end of the hall. Our eyes met. Her voice stopped. The call ended. She slid the phone into her pocket and walked back toward me, wiping at dry cheeks like she'd been crying. "Everything okay?" she asked, too casually. I held her gaze. "Yeah," I said. "Everything's great." She studied me. Suspicious now. "You look Weird. I gave her a small smile. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing about you. Her nostrils flared. Then she recovered. You should go home. You've had a lot of stress. At your age, sometimes stress makes people imagine things. At my age, imagine things. There it was again. The narrative she was building. Senile grandpa. Confused old man. Overreacting. And that's when the real violation hit. Not the poison. Not the blood. The disrespect. The fact she was already laying the groundwork to erase me as a credible person. The same way she tried to erase me as a human being at that party. She leaned closer, voice dropping into something that sounded like velvet, but felt like a threat. Don't make this worse. Just stay in your lane. Let me handle my family. My family. I felt that old anger press against my ribs like a trapped animal. But I didn't let it out. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I nodded slowly. Sure, I said. Handle it. Then I turned and walked away. Because in that moment, I finally understood the shape of the fight. She wasn't just trying to take my life. She was trying to take my credibility first. So when the life part happened, nobody would believe it wasn't an accident. And I'm sorry, but no, not in my house. Not in my family. Not while I'm still breathing. I didn't sleep the night after that hospital visit. Not because I was scared, because my brain wouldn't shut off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the pattern. Clear, clean, ugly as hell. Poison meant for me. My son collapsing instead. Her already pivoting to damage control. Laying the groundwork to paint me as old, confused, unreliable. That's when it clicked. She wasn't sloppy. She wasn't emotional. She was methodical, which meant if I confronted her directly, she'd cry, twist it, weaponize my age, and make me look like a grieving old man grasping at shadows. So I didn't confront her. I outplanned her. The next morning, I did 3 things before noon. First, I went to my bank and locked down now every account. New passwords, new alerts, no more family access. The teller gave me that look like I was being paranoid. I smiled and said, "Humor me. Paranoia keeps you alive." Second, I met with a lawyer, not a friendly one, not a let's talk this out mediator. I hired a bulldog, the kind who doesn't blink when you slide lab results and hospital records across the table. She read everything in silence. Then she looked up and said, "If even half of this holds, this isn't family drama. This is attempted murder." Good. We were speaking the same language. Third, I called in a favor from an old friend who owed me one, a retired forensic tech who now consults quietly for civil cases. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Bring me what you have." By the end of the week, I had a folder so thick it barely closed. Lab results from the drink. My prescription records showing missing pills. Hospital toxicology confirming anticoagulants in my son's blood. A sworn statement from my granddaughter, taken gently, carefully, by a professional. Security footage from my front camera showing her entering my house alone days before the party and leaving 20 minutes later. Phone metadata showing calls she made immediately after my son collapsed. Not to emergency services, but to one specific number. Patterns don't lie. People do. Now all I needed was the right moment, and she gave it to me. She invited me over, said she wanted to clear the air, said my son was recovering and didn't need negativity, said she was worried about me, about my stress levels, about my memory. I agreed immediately, because nothing makes a predator cocky like thinking the prey is already broken. I showed up on Sunday afternoon with a calm face and a quiet smile. She opened the door and did the whole performance again. Warm hug. Soft voice. "I'm so glad you came." My son was sitting on the couch, pale, but upright. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey, Dad." She sat between us. Of course she did. Physical barrier. Emotional control. She started talking right away. Too fast. I think we all went through something traumatic, and stress can make people imagine things. We shouldn't accuse anyone without proof. We're family. That word again, family. I let her talk. Let her build the narrative. Old man, confusion, stress, misunderstanding. Then I reached into my bag and set the folder on the coffee table. The sound it made was small, soft, but it cut her off mid-sentence. "What's that?" she asked, still smiling. "Documentation," I said. I opened it slowly, deliberately, like I was unrolling a warrant. I slid the first page toward my son. Hospital toxicology report, highlighted. "This says you had a dangerous concentration of blood thinners in your system," I said. "You don't take them." His eyes widened. He looked up at her. "What?" She laughed nervously. "That doesn't mean anything. Hospitals make mistakes." I slid the second page, my prescription log. Missing pills circled in red. "These pills were taken from my house," I said. "When you were alone there." Her smile slipped. "Just a fraction." "That's circumstantial," she snapped. "You can't prove—" I slid the third page. Lab results from the drink. "Your new beginning cocktail," I said. "Tested independently, same substance, same profile." My son's mouth fell open. He looked at her like he was seeing a stranger crawl out of her skin. She stood up so fast the chair scraped. "This is insane. You're doing this because you never liked me. Because you're jealous. Because you're old and bitter." I wasn't done. I slid the final item across the table. A printed transcript of her phone call. Time-stamped. Transcribed. Verified. I don't care. It wasn't supposed to be him. Silence crashed into the room. My son stared at the page. "Read it once." Then again. He looked up at her, voice shaking. "What does that mean?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, and nothing came out. I stood up. "This is the part where you stop pretending," I said, voice low, steady. "You poisoned a drink in my house. My son drank it by accident. You didn't call for help. You called to complain that it went wrong." Her face drained of color. She backed up a step. "I've already filed copies of everything with my attorney." I continued. "And the police? They're deciding charges now. Elder abuse, poisoning, attempted homicide." My son stood too. His hands were shaking. "Is this true?" She looked at him. Really looked at him. And that's when the mask finally fell. "You weren't supposed to be there," she hissed. "He was old. He had money. It would have been clean." That was it. The moment everything broke. My son took a step back like she'd slapped him. "Get out," she laughed, high-pitched, unhinged. "You can't do this. I'm your wife." "Get out," he repeated, louder now. She turned on me, eyes wild. "You think you won? You ruined your own family." I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me. "No," I said. "You did. I just documented it." The police knocked 20 minutes later. I didn't open the door for them. My son did. The house went quiet after they took her away. Not dramatic quiet, not movie scene quiet. That heavy, ringing silence you get after something violent finally stops moving. My son sat back down on the couch like his legs had given up on him. His hands were still shaking. He stared at the empty space where she'd been standing, like his brain hadn't caught up to reality yet. "I almost died," he said, more to the room than to me. "Yes," I said. "You did." He looked up at me, eyes red, jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grind. "She meant to kill you." "Yes," I said again, "and she didn't care who got in the way." That's when it hit him. Not all at once. It came in waves. Betrayal, rage, grief. The kind of grief you feel when someone you loved never actually existed. He buried his face in his hands and let out a sound I'll never forget. Not a sob. Something lower. Like an animal realizing the ground under it isn't solid anymore. I didn't say anything. I just sat beside him and waited. Because sometimes the only thing left to do is survive the truth. The legal fallout came fast. faster than she ever expected. The lab results, the prescription records, the hospital toxicology, the recorded call, the witness statement from my granddaughter, all of it lined up too cleanly to explain away. She was charged with attempted murder, poisoning, and elder abuse. Her lawyer tried to float the same garbage narrative she'd practiced on me. Stress, confusion, misinterpretation, a grieving old man looking for someone to blame. It died the moment the prosecutor played the audio in open court. I don't care. It wasn't supposed to be him. The courtroom went dead silent. My son didn't look at her again after that. The judge denied bail. When they let her out in cuffs, she twisted around and locked eyes with me. There was no fear in them, no regret, just hate and something else. Shock, because for the first time in her life, her smile didn't save her. In the months that followed, my son filed for divorce and full custody. He won both without a fight. Turns out judges don't love poisoners. My granddaughter moved into my house for a while, the same house she'd helped save without even knowing it. We repainted the living room, replaced the coffee table, threw out every glass from that party. Some things don't deserve to stay. Life didn't magically get easy. It got real. My son went to therapy. I did too. We learned how to talk about what happened without choking on it, how to sit with the fact that evil doesn't always come with horns. Sometimes it comes with a soft voice and a toast. As for me, I sleep better now. Not because I forgot, because I didn't. I trusted my instincts. I documented everything. I didn't let fear or politeness finish what poison started. People ask me sometimes if I regret going nuclear, if I wish I'd handled it more quietly. Here's my answer. When someone tries to erase you, staying quiet is just helping them with the math. Justice isn't pretty. It isn't gentle. And it doesn't care if the person hurting you shares your last name. And the one thing I know for sure, the line I want burned into your memory if you're listening to this. If someone smiles while they're planning your downfall, don't argue with them. Outlive them.